Howdy y'all and welcome back. BeGunners episode 12, shooting stance. So we've talked about our grip, we've talked about our framing, what we're doing with our arms. Now let's address the rest of the body. And when I'm talking about stance, I am referring to the stance that you want to engage when you are practicing self-defense shooting. So if you're in some particular like bullseye marksmanship competitive league and you do this when you shoot or whatever, that's not what I'm talking about, all right? I'm talking about what we want to incorporate into our self-defense shooting practice. Stance. So, 2 training cues. The first one, bend your damn knees. Now, I'm not talking about going into a squat like an 80s SWAT movie or something. Just break at the knees. Soften up your knees so that you are more dynamic and able to move out of that position should you need to. Second training cue is going to be rooting. And that's a little more esoteric, and I know you're going to have shoes on at the range, but imagine that you didn't have shoes on. Wiggle your toes and visualize like you had like monkey toes that could reach down and grab into the ground, or like tree roots growing out of your feet and into the ground. You want to bend and root yourself into the ground. And what that's going to help you do, aside from being stable, is it's going to help get you out of your damn head. We have all of this communication going on between our grip and the trigger finger and our arms. So all of this communication is going from the brain to the hands, and we tend to get real in our head. And then we start anticipating the shots, and we start flinching and pulling shots because we're so in our head. And sometimes it's just really helpful to get in touch with your entire body and think about it a little bit less and just execute. Just do you practice and then execute, right? So when you're at the range, you really want to be executing at the range. You want to practice at home in dry practice. So something like this is just me in the garage doing some like pretend draw strokes from the waistband, appendix, and just different stances that I might be able to probably get away with also at a shooting range within reason, right? So I'm not talking about doing goofy mall ninja stuff like, shooting off your back with one hand or from like a push-up stance or something. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about don't rut yourself into only practicing shooting with your left foot forward, 60% of the weight, 40% on the back leg, and don't limit yourself, because your real world encounter isn't going to play out like that. In fact, there's a pretty high likelihood you'll be shooting one-handed and moving or trying to protect someone. Like if you watch Active Self-Protection, which is a channel here on YouTube hosted by John Correa, you will see real world, it's like surveillance footage, and he goes over and analyzes different real world shootings. They are never pretty, like at all. You very rarely see someone draw their weapon and execute a perfect stance, and like it almost never goes that way. It's usually erratic and sketchy, and they're doing some kind of, so you want to at least practice some different, go with the right foot forward instead of always going with the left foot forward, or try squatting a little more, but maybe a little less. Maybe practice your shooting from a erect posture, but also, from a forward, fully extended, like work out and see what works best for you, but also just to get the feeling of doing it from slightly different positions. Obviously, you're going to be limited by the range where you're shooting. And again, you don't want to send up red flags to the range officers by doing weird acrobatic, goofy stuff on the range either. But a lot of this you can do at home in your dry practice and just see what feels natural and try to really visualize yourself in an engagement. So when you're doing your dry practice, try to make it as realistic in your imagination as you can, and you've got someone closing in on you, what are you going to, you may have to take your shot from right here. Like, you may not have the luxury of extending out. Like, so work it out in different ways, but think about immediately get into a broken soft knee posture and rooting, planting yourself as if the person was coming at you and about to try to tackle you, right? So you want to be planted firmly into the ground, knees soft. If you can get out of the way, you're going to do that. But if you have to take someone tackling you, you don't want to be standing there like a doorknob and just get rolled over, right? So an athletic stance. All right, y'all. So practice your stances, but the training cues here: bend at the knees, root into the ground. That's all I got for this one. Until next time, be easy, y'all.